Hi everyone. So this is me learning AI programming and everything around AI and no code because I want to build a business that is completely run by AI and no code. But I realized to do this, I have to go into details and basically learn the very basic fundamentals of programming first. And I know that AI can do a lot of those things for you, but still, to be really proficient and being able to put and stack everything together, I decided that I first have to learn Python. And so, what we will be doing here is that I teach you and show you step by step how I learn Python, and then I learn more Python, and then I learn machine learning, and then I learn AI, and then I learn no code, and then at some point I learn how to create businesses with AI, and so on and so on. And you can, join me in these videos and maybe learn something as well. And I will all share them via the Learn AI and No Code section in my YouTube channel, Falke TV. So yeah, you can check all of those videos there. But let's get started now with a very basic topic. At least I feel it's basic, and at the same time it's very new to me, which is Python functions. And I do this by learning an Udemy course. So it's basically called, let me quickly show you, the complete Python bootcamp from zero to hero in Python. I actually wanted to share it with you, but I think I run into some copyright infractions here. So what I will be doing, I will just share with you what I learned in the process of doing it. And that's what we are doing here. So we will go into Python functions. And what are Python functions? Python functions are basically a possibility to create something in Python. So write a little bit of Python script, and then we can just run this with different functions and numbers and so on. I learn as well, right? But let's start and learn this by one functions, how I learned it as well. And how this is called and what we will be doing is basically, let's create a function in Python. Then let us find out if at least one of the numbers in any given list is even. So even basically means 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on. If that is the case, then please return, please with a S, then a C. Let's see if we can change this. Yes. So if that is the case, then we can say please return true as a result. So something is true. And true means that yes, there is a number that is even within the list. So let's do this. So we can here click on, I don't know how you say this in English, but basically that you want to capitalize a letter, and then you press enter, and then we come on to the next scene here. And I will go with you through this statement, define check even list, and then for number and so on, and explain what I will be doing here and why this works the way it does. So what we see here is DEF, and DEF basically means define. So define any kind of function in Python. And in this sense here, check even list is, we basically say, check if the numbers in a list are even. And even means 2, 4, 6.8. And then we have a list, and we call this list here, for example, let me quickly see if we can insert cell below. Yes. So let's do this again. So we say define, and then we say check even list. But we could also say, check even list is one kind of whatever word we use. But we could also say define check for even number in list to make it even a bit longer, but to give us a very good understanding of what we're actually doing here. And then we say, okay, check for even numbers in this list. What kind of list? We just give it whatever name. So we say list 1, for example. It doesn't really matter. We could also list it list 2, list 3, whatever, or list numbers, or we could say numbers. So let's go with numbers. Or maybe do we want to have numbers? Maybe not. Let's go with list 1. We do list 2 because we did list 12. Okay, list 12. So we say define check for even numbers in list. So that's what we want to do. And then do this within any kind of list. And we call the list list 12. And then we press enter. When we press enter, we now see that we are not talking anymore about, or like we are not seeing the error here, like this thing at the beginning of the line, but more like indented. And that basically means that whatever we write here, we write within this defined function. And so we can now say for, so basically for any kind of number in this list, so the list 12, and you see here, you know, like now you see a bit more of the logic of those functions, because it's exactly the same what we write here that we wrote in this line 25. So here we have the line 25, and we see define check even list, list 1, for any kind of number in list 1. And here, one below, we have define check for even number in list, list 12, for number in list 12. So this is the logic that the list 12 here has always be exactly the same for it to work. But you can name this differently, the number, and you can also list or define and name the check for even number in list functions differently. So now we give it a double points as well. We press enter, and then we have if number, and now it becomes interesting because we say if the number, and you see again, this is exactly the same. So maybe, you know, like just to make it a bit more the logic more clear, we say if nr, and then below here we see also if nr. So again, exactly the same kind of wording, or like the same brand, or the same, how do you say this? Yeah, the same, whatever, you know, like characteristics, however we want to call it. So it has to be the same name. It has to be the same variable in a sense. So if this number, and then we have this mark here, divided by 2, or mod 2 it's called, is equal to 2, is equal to 0. And then we say, okay, if this is true, and I explain you in a second what this exactly means, then we want to return true. So basically our result should be true. If this is not right, then we say pass. And I explain you why, because this actually what we see here is wrong, and I explain you in a second why it's wrong, why it doesn't work. But let's first focus on what it actually means if we say the number mod 2 equals 0. What does it tell us about even numbers? And that's what we do here before, you know, like we will delete this in a second, but just for you to give you an understanding. So basically mod means that there are no specific, like mod anything equals 0 means that there are no remainders when we make a division divided by 2. So basically if we take like an even number, then if we do even 2, let's say divided by 2 equals 1. 4 divided by 2 equals 2. 6 divided by 2 equals 3. So there are no remainders when we do a division. And for that reason, because there are no remainders when we divide by 2, because it's an even number, we can say that for any kind of even number, so basically we can make here a comment. So comment is always these hash numbers. For any number that is equal, that is even, we can say that there is no remainder when we divide that number by 2. And for that reason, then the mod, so the modular, basically, let's put this on the next line. Then the mod of this number divided by 2 basically has to be 0. And so that's what we are doing here. And for any other number, if it's not even, so basically, I mean, 3 divided by 2, what is this? This is like something, something. So 3 divided by 2, so the 2 fits into the 3 like once, but then we have basically still a remainder from 1. So this is not true, it's like 1 point something, but the 3 module 2 basically gives us a remainder of 1. And so that's the reason why for uneven numbers it doesn't work. It's the same if we say 5 divided by 2 equals 2.5. 2.5. So there has to be a remainder. So basically if we then use the mod, then we see that the 2 fits twice into a 5, but there's still a remainder, and this is 1. So basically whenever we have an uneven number, the remainder is not 0. And for that reason, we have here this number. If we say the modular 2 is 0, it means that it returns true, because this automatically means that we're talking about an even number here. So let's delete that. And so what we say is that we define now this function, and we give it here the function, and here an input variable. And then we say for the number in list 12, so for any kind of number in list 12, or for the numbers, if this is like equal to 0, the mod, then return true, else don't do anything. And then we press again like this shift enter, and then we can check it. So now we can check the even list, but this doesn't work because we have now a different name here for our function. So we put in this different name of the function. We change this here. And now we say this is, like our input variable is now a list that contains the numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We press enter, and we see it gives us true again because all of those numbers are even. But if we do this now for another list where all the numbers are uneven, then we get nothing because we don't have nothing defined. We said else pass, so nothing happens. If we would put else, and now that comes an interesting point, if we put, we have to put this at the same indentation. If we would put else false here, and then run this again, so check for even number in list 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and we run so line 44 again, we would get false. The big problem, however, was exactly what I just put, is return true or else return false, is it's not 100% correct, or let's say it becomes a bit problematic. And the reason is because let's check here line 28. So if we check line 28, then what we will be finding is that now we have not only true, like not only even numbers and not only uneven numbers in the list, but we have a mixture. And we have a mixture of 1, 3, 5, 7, 8. So if we now use our list again, so the check for even number list in line 42, include this here in line 28. Now we have this, and now we press enter, we get false. However, we don't want to get false, because we have an even number in that list. So why does it give us false when we don't want to do this? We want to have a true. So how can we make sure, if we look at line 45, how can we make sure that this statement that we see here is actually correct? And the problem with that is, and I'll show you in a second, is that what we actually see is that it says, okay, if a number is mod 2, return true. But if this number is not mod 2, return false. So if we now go through this list in line 47 and say check for even numbers in list, it goes to the 1 and it says, oh, the 1 is not even, so we return false. And it basically stops, it doesn't go further. And so what we have to do is to say, okay, no, I want to first have you go through all of this piece of information. And when you have all of this piece of information, then I want to have you to return false if that is not true. So what we have to do is that this return false is basically at a different position. So we say else pass. So we leave this exactly as it is, but if we are still not coming to any kind of conclusion, so we are basically running through all the lists, so now through all the numbers, so basically we say, here we can just check this, and this is not part of the function, that's just an, so we just do it as a comment for you to understand. So basically what we can say, okay, we have this list here, and this list basically says, whatever, we say the numbers, 8. So now it says, okay, we go through all these loops here. So we say this number 1, it's uneven, so return true, else pass. So we pass. 3, we pass. 5, we pass. 7, we pass. 8, okay, now 8, we don't pass. And we put true. But what if we now have a 9 here? Then we want to return false. But to make sure that we don't leaving this 8 out of the table, we say, okay, first run through this, and then afterwards, and so we put the return basically one step, two step up. So we say, okay, this is it's still within the function, but it's not within this loop, because first we want to check for this loop for all the numbers in the list if we can return true, and only if we can't return true until the very final end, then we return false. And now if we do exactly this function again, so we delete our comment here, and we say again, we press enter, and then we go to this list here, 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, so the line 47. Then we press enter, and then we get true instead of false. Because now it turns up till 8, it finds out, oh wow, 8 is like an even number, so I have to say true, and only if the 8 would be a 9, then it would be a false, because then there are no even numbers in there. So this was all about the functions. What we can do now in the top is like one additional function that gets a bit more difficult. And this basically means, what can we do if we want to return all even numbers in a list? So we don't even only want to, like return true or false, but we want to be a bit more deeper. So we want to return all the even numbers in a list. So what we can be doing here is to keep our function, but we call it again the new function. So basically this really long, really long name that we have defined for our function. We put this here. We say we take the list 12 again. So now we have check for even numbers in list, and again list 12. Now we say, okay, this is just a placeholder. So this is the even numbers. And then what we can say is for the number, so for basically any kind of number, we had the number in list 12. If the number is divisible by 0 or like is divisible by 2 equals 0 with the module, then for this even numbers list here, we append this by the number. So basically now we say, okay, for example, let's say we have here this check even list, this one below here. So let's maybe put this in a brackets here again. So we have this list, and we just say the list is 1, 3, or maybe do this a bit different, 2, 4, 5, and 7, and 6. So basically now it says, and we just go until here, right? We just don't change anything else. So we just say, okay, 1, if the 1, okay, but the 1 we have to pass, right? Because the 1 is not an even number. But if here the 6 is an even number, so if this even number, so basically if this is an even number and we check, okay, yes, check mark the 6 is an even number, then from all these, like this list that currently is just empty, we want to append this number. So we basically want to add this number to exactly that list. And that's what we do. So we say, okay, now the 6, we want to append this. So we basically want to add this to this list. And the list is called even numbers. And otherwise we pass. And then as a result, we want to return. So we want to basically get a list of all those even numbers. And so that's what we do. So we run this here. And then we say not the check even list, but we basically check our very long variable name again. We put this here. We have the list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. Let's put this a bit longer. So now we have a list of 10 numbers. And now we press enter. And what we see is that we get the numbers 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So exactly those numbers that are even, because we found out the numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 are even numbers. And so then after we found this out, we appended them. So we basically added them to the even numbers list here. And then as a result, later on, we said return the even numbers. So basically return the list of all those even numbers. So basically the even numbers list. And then it gave us 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And we see this here again when we do a list that is only uneven numbers. So we change our function again, the function name put in here. We press enter, and then we see it just gives us an empty list because there is no specific even number there. Or we can also add an 8, run it, and then we see it gives us an 8. So this was that so far, very in detail and very beginner friendly. At least it helped me a lot to get like into the topic of understanding of how it works, of how you can basically do Python functions. And this is really, really basic, but we go into more and more details about these Python functions so that you're really understanding how it works. And then we add more and more complexity and layers to it. So at one point, we will be able to actually do and create Python functions that are valuable for our day-to-day life and help us to automate our processes in a very helpful way. But obviously, this is just the beginning, and we will add a lot of AI very soon. But just, I believe that the better we understand the basics, the more easy it becomes for us then to also excel at the more advanced topics. So that was it. If you like it, just give me a like or subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions or anything is unclear or some use cases that you want to share for those functions, that I will be happy if you just share them in the channel's comments. And for that, have a great day.